McDonald's has leaked millions of job applications. Jack Dorsey has entered the encrypted messenger game. That'll be an interesting talk. Custom Android phones are getting law enforcement attention and more. Welcome to Surveillance Report 233, where we are dedicated to keeping you private and secure with the latest news in the past week. And I'm Henry from Techlore.
And I'm Nathan from The New Oil.
Before we get into the McDonald's story, just a quick note on our sponsor, EasyOptOuts. EasyOptOuts is a site that tries to tackle the data broker industry. They are much more affordable than most options out there, and it's only $20 a year. They make cancellation easy, and the best part is they are very evidence-based. Consumer Reports did an independent analysis of all of these removal services, and they found that EasyOptOuts is pretty much tied for the top spot. And then Privacy Guides also did it, and now also New York Times Wirecutter also has them as a top pick for a data removal service, and it's also what both Nate and I are using personally as well. It's pretty much the best option I can even send people to in terms of my personal life when friends or family ask me for a service. They ask for minimal information. You don't have to give them anything that isn't already publicly available. They only have 2 employees, which are the founders, so they don't share your data with sketchy third parties and other people. And there's no ads or analytics on the platform. If you use Brave or anything else, you can actually confirm that yourself. Another small distinction, which is really important to highlight, is that many of these services actually just take your data and just mass send it to everybody, even if they don't already have your information. EasyOptOuts is a bit different because they analyze each website, see which website has your information, then they personally target each of those services. So it's a pretty well in-depth, really thought out service. And it's also $20 a year, which has made me rethink why some of the other services are so expensive. They also have business plans. I just want to thank EasyOptOuts for sponsoring this podcast, keeping us growing and allowing us to also have sponsors that we also get to personally use. So thank you, EasyOptOuts, and check them out down in the description to get started. Let's get into the highlight story, which is about McDonald's AI has a hiring bot, which exposed millions of applicants' data to hackers who tried the password. If you're listening, you got to guess what the password is. What was the password? It's 123456. So security researchers Ian Carroll and Sam Curry revealed that they found simple methods to hack into the back end of the AI chatbot platform on mchire.com. They discovered that some basic web-based vulnerabilities existed, which included guessing one laughably weak password, which is the one I already shared, which allowed them to access a paradox.ai account and query the company's databases that held every McHire user's chats with Olivia. Who's Olivia? Is Olivia the AI bot? Okay, that's Olivia. The data appears to include as many as 64 million records, including applicants' names, email addresses, and phone numbers. Carol said that I started applying for a job, and then after 30 minutes, we had full access to virtually every application that's ever been made to McDonald's going back years. Wired did reach out to McDonald's as well as Paradox AI for comment, and then a Paradox AI spokesperson did come forward and shared a blog post the company planned to publish that confirmed the findings. The company noted that only a fraction of the records access contained personal information and said it had verified that the administrator account with the 123456 password that exposed was not accessed by any third party other than the researchers. The company also added that it's instituting a bug bounty program to better catch security vulnerabilities in the future. Henry insertion, companies, take note. You're allowed to establish bug bounty programs and proper security practices before a major incident happens. That is an option. I just want to throw that out there. You don't have to wait for a big incident like this to do that. Carroll says he became interested in the security of the McHire website after spotting a Reddit post complaining about McDonald's hiring chatbot wasting applicants' time with nonsense responses and misunderstandings. He wanted to test it himself, testing for prompt injection vulnerabilities, and, well, we all know how that led. One little extra thing here, not only was the username and password admin and 123456, which you just couldn't be more typical than that. Like if I was writing a book, I couldn't do that because it would be too obvious and people would think it's unrealistic. But there also was no 2-factor authentication, so that was kind of a double kicker for Paradox AI there.
Actually, just to clarify, I think based on the wording of the article, the username was also 123456. So it wasn't admin, which would have been super predictable. But the fact that the username and the password were the same thing is like, there is like no website on the planet that will let you do that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, so to clarify this, I misread this slightly. So they found 2 different login credentials.
They tried to. The first one didn't work, but on their second try, they nailed it.
Okay, ignore that. Okay, I totally misread this. Yeah, what Nate said is correct. It's just 123456 for both username and password.
It wasn't admin, but it was literally the second try.
Wow. Crazy.
right?
Now, the personal information exposed by the security lapse isn't the most sensitive, but the risk for the applicants, they argue, was heightened by the fact that the data is associated with the knowledge of their employment at McDonald's or their intention to get a job there. Had someone exploited this, the phishing risk would have actually been massive. So what they're saying by that, for those of you who are new to the podcast, or you might be a little bit curious here, so there wasn't anything that it was insanely sensitive in the job application itself that could have been accessed through this vulnerability. But the fact that there was this trove of user data meant that someone who had access to it could have then been like, okay, well, I have their phone number. I'm going to impersonate McDonald's, because if someone's looking for a job and I text them saying, hey, you got the job, just send me this information, now they can get a lot of access to a lot of data. And for context, there was actually this really semi-common thing that was going on where like they did these fake interviews for cryptocurrency CEOs with hacked accounts. That is something that is much easier to pull off in this situation, where they could literally just have a team of 3 or 4 people set up fake interviews, and at the very end just say, hey, we need this information, please share it with us, we need it for processing, and I don't think it's unrealistic, and I wouldn't even really question someone asking me for my social security number in a job application if they were like, well, you got the job, we just need to kind of get your basic information to process this. I think even I would probably go, yeah, that seems somewhat reasonable. So that's what they're kind of alluding to here. And so hopefully none of this was accessed by a third party, but still very careless, and definitely illustrates this entire, like, let's just bake in AI, let's just make everything super efficient and not think about the consequences, which is apparently the way everything is nowadays, including government.
Yeah, Henry and I were talking about that before. The main thought I wanted to add is, so I've mentioned before on past episodes that there's a lot of figurative math that goes into us deciding what the headline story should be. We try to find a balance between something that is popular and important, but also something that will grab attention. We try not to be too clickbaity with the titles, but also we do have to game the algorithm. And we had a few good options this week, but the reason we went with this one is because right now the economy is crap. I saw an article from Slashdot the other day that made the claim that we're in a weird sort of economy where if you already have a job, you're probably set. You're probably not going to lose your job unless you're in tech, apparently. But if you don't have a job, you're very unlikely to find a job. And I'm really sorry to say that because that's very disheartening, because I know a lot of people right now are in between jobs and they're just sending out hundreds of applications a week, getting 0 callbacks. So it's really disheartening that companies are. And I was telling Henry about this earlier, companies are turning to AI more and more. And now there's even some companies that are doing like the first couple of interviews will be with AI, which is just so disrespectful and dehumanizing. And now on top of it, like they can't even be bothered to make a good app. Our password and username is going to be 12345. Like, okay, fine. When you're in the development environment, do whatever. But once you push it to production, update that stuff. Like, it's so mind-blowing on so many different levels that this was allowed to happen at all, that companies are throwing all their, it's hard. Henry and I have made it very clear that we're not completely anti-AI. There are a lot of problems with it, but there's also a lot of valid use cases. But this is just one of those, like, I don't know, this is like everything that is wrong with AI. Like, it's dehumanizing to make people talk to and also a personal pet peeve. I hate that we're naming AI. I hate that the article did this. And their chats with Olivia. Olivia's not a real person. Don't name it. Don't name it in case you have to take it out back and shoot it, which we all should. I get so annoyed when I call a helpline and it's like, hi, my name is Lily. No, it's not. You don't have a name. You're a program. Shut up. Connect me to a human. This is just everything that's wrong with AI here, is like the dehumanizing of it, the fast and loose with the passwords, and the fact that it gives garbage responses. It's not even a good chatbot. It's just everything wrong here. But it's also just really frustrating that, when you're trying to find a job and you send out an application to everybody and now that data is out of your hands. And unfortunately, a lot of the time you can't, there's only so much, I don't even want to say lying. Like, there's only so much fuzzing of the truth you can do in a job application. You could use a PO box. You could use a simple login email. You could use a voice over IP phone number. You could use like a shortened version of your name. But at the end of the day, like Henry said, you're going to have to turn over bank account numbers for direct deposit, social security for taxes and background checks. And I mean, there's certain things that raise a flag. Like, if I did a phone interview for my current job, like my kind of industry, and then I got a text that said, I need your social, that would be like, this is weird, especially the person I interviewed. At most, they would be like, hey, email your W-9 or whatever form it is to payroll at this email address. But The point being is like you still have to turn over that information. It's not unusual for someone to request that, like Henry said. So it's really just kind of luck that nobody really accessed this stuff. Did you read the part about the company noted that only a fraction of the records contain personal information?
I believe so.
I felt like that was a real half apology. It's funny because I didn't include the full quote in the show notes, but at the very end, they're like, we own this. This was our mess up. We're going to make it right. And it's like, but you're not owning it because you're downplaying it. You're like, well, we've added a bug bounty program and we changed the password and nobody accessed it. And it was only part of the information. But hey, our bad. We'll fix it. No, this never should have gotten this far in the first place. This is just such a catastrophic failure from the top to bottom. And I really just wish we had more recourse because we live in a country where the court has repeatedly shown that if you take this to court, they're going to be like, well, nobody stole your identity. Nobody stole your bank account. Nobody did phish you. So therefore you're fine. You know, it's almost like you almost got shot, but you didn't. So whatever, no harm, no foul. And it's like, we need to start penalizing people for this kind of irresponsibility. This is negligence. I don't understand. This has got to be a lawsuit for negligence, but I'm not a lawyer. So,
well, I, for one, liked the movie Her.
I still haven't seen it. I really need to.
Yeah. I think we should humanize AI to the extreme. You'd like Her.
Oh, I'm sure I would.
Okay, so Her is a good movie, and I think because it's a pretty serious movie, like there's nothing really humorous about it, but I think most people know what I'm talking about when I say it also has like one of the funniest scenes. I feel like I just found it hilarious. Like right in the middle of the movie, there's just this, it's a really serious movie. There's not that much funniness to it. And there's this one character who's in a video game that just cracks me the hell up. And I thought that was like a really fun, just addition to the movie. And that's something I think about a lot.
Okay, I'm going to do my best to watch it within the next week. Please, people, try not to leave spoilers because now I don't want to know. I want to go into this blind. And just because I said that, people are going to leave spoilers in the comments. But I haven't seen Megan either. I know Megan is a little bit more intentionally like campy and kind of over the top. That's the word I was looking for. But I have seen Ex Machina. That's what it's called. I have seen Ex Machina. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I need to.
That's intense, but it's good. Okay, anyways. Enough with the movie reviews. With that, we'll go into our data breaches. We're going to start off with a hacker who has leaked Telefonica data allegedly stolen in a new breach. So this is 106 gigs of data from the Spanish telecommunications company. The threat actor leaked a 2.6 gigabyte archive that unpacks into 5 gigabytes of data with a little over 20,000 files to prove that the breach occurred. They told Bleeping Computer that they exfiltrated 385,311 files totaling 106.3 gigs of internal communications, such as tickets and emails, purchase orders, internal logs, customer records, and employee data. The only response Bleeping Computers received from a Telefonica employee dismissed the alleged incident as an extortion attempt using outdated information from a previously known incident. The sample that was shared with Bleeping Computer includes invoices to business clients in multiple countries, including Hungary, Germany, Spain, Chile, and Peru. The most recent file was from 2021, which seems to confirm what the company representative told them. However, Bleeping Computer's findings also found that some of the email addresses in the leak belong to active employees.
Bitcoin Depot, for those who don't know, this is one of the largest Bitcoin ATM networks in the US. They had a data breach that exposed 27,000 crypto users. In the letter that was sent to affected individuals, the company informs them that it first detected suspicious activity on its network last year on June 23rd. Although the internal investigation was completed on July 18th, 2024, a parallel investigation by federal agencies dictated that public disclosure of the incident should be withheld until it was completed. The data exposed includes full names, phone numbers, driver's license numbers, addresses, date of births, and email addresses. Because the financial risk is related to cryptocurrency, this is a direct quote, letter recipients were not offered coverage through identity monitoring and theft protection services.
And our last data breach, this is just a real quick update, and then I'll roll into the company section. It says Qantas confirmed data breach impacts 5.7 million customers. This is just an update because now we have official confirmation. Qantas is an Australian airline that had a data breach last week, and now they're owning up to it. With that, we'll move into companies. And Jack Dorsey of Twitter fame, and then Block, which I think was formerly Square, he has launched a WhatsApp messaging rival built on Bluetooth. Jack Dorsey spent the weekend building BitChat, a new decentralized peer-to-peer messaging app that works entirely over Bluetooth mesh networks with no internet, central servers, phone numbers, or emails required. The Twitter co-founder announced Sunday that the beta version is live on test flight with a full white paper available on GitHub.
It did say spent the weekend, by the way. That is actually what it says. Direct quote. Nate didn't inject that.
I'm going to circle back to that, but yes, that is a quote. BitChat enables ephemeral encrypted communication between nearby devices, As users move through physical space, their phones form local Bluetooth clusters and pass messages from device to device, allowing them to reach peers beyond the standard range, even without Wi-Fi or cell service. Certain bridge devices connect to overlapping clusters, expanding the mesh across greater distances. Messages are stored only on device and disappear by default and never touch centralized infrastructure. BitChat is designed to work even when the internet is blocked, offering a censorship-resistant way to stay connected during outages, shutdowns, or surveillance. The app also supports optional group chats, which can be named with hashtags and protected by passwords. It includes store and forward functionality to deliver messages to users who are temporarily offline. A future update will add Wi-Fi Direct to increase speed and range, pushing Dorsey's vision for an off-grid, user-owned communication even further. Now, the update is that this app has not been audited for security, and already people are starting to pick at it. I'm actually quoting a message from someone who shared this link. Initial findings are that BitChat has several major security vulnerabilities. Keys can be intercepted, forward secrecy isn't implemented correctly, and a buffer overflow bug.
Samsung has announced major security enhancements coming to One UI 8. Key highlights include the production of a system-level architecture named Knox Enhanced Encryption Protection, which is called, the acronym is KEEP, which upgrades to Knox Matrix, and the addition of quantum resistance to Wi-Fi connectivity. Samsung is introducing Keep, which is a system built to support the company's personal data engine, which is PDE, and other AI features like Now Brief, which is a personalized daily update feature thingy that they have. They also have Smart Suggestions, they have Moments, which are photo memories, and they also have Smart Gallery Search, which is natural language photo retrieval. Keep is different from the existing secure folder, which is just a separate secure storage space. This is an architecture that creates isolated environments for each app to store sensitive data in encrypted state and keep it protected from unauthorized access by other processes. Knox Matrix is Samsung's multi-device platform designed to protect and manage security across all connected Galaxy devices. This will also receive significant upgrades in One UI 8. When the system detects manipulation or identity forgery, Knox Matrix will automatically sign out of the Samsung account, cutting off the attacker's channel to access cloud-connected services, data, and pivot to other devices. If such an event occurs, the user receives an alert across all their devices. Another important addition to Knox Matrix concerns the delivery of warnings to users when they have yet to apply the latest security updates on their devices. The release of One UI 8 also brings upgrades to Samsung's secure Wi-Fi, which will use the NIST-certified MLKEM scheme to offer post-quantum cryptographic resistance. This strengthens the key exchange process and protects encrypted communications from future quantum-based threats such as harvest now, decrypt later attacks, which could expose sensitive user data in the future. Secure Wi-Fi also offers automatic strengthening when connecting to public hotspots, multi-point routing, and packet encryption for anonymization and security-related logging. One UI 8 is expected to be released alongside Samsung's upcoming launch of the widely anticipated Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Z Flip 7 devices, but the update is also expected to reach older Galaxy models soon.
On that note, we have a couple of Windows 11 stories. Windows 11 now uses JScript 9 legacy engine for improved security. So basically, back in 1996, Microsoft implemented JScript, which was their implementation of JavaScript, and it was primarily used in Internet Explorer and as a scripting language for Windows to automate tasks, validate forms, or create admin scripts. The engine is considered severely outdated today, non-compliant with modern JavaScript security standards, and a frequent target of memory corruption, arbitrary code execution, and cross-site scripting vulnerabilities triggered through malicious documents, emails, and websites. Despite this, it remained the default engine on Windows until now to ensure backwards compatibility and avoid breaking workflows in critical systems. However, now that Internet Explorer is deprecated and there is increasing adoption of the Edge browser, Microsoft is drawing the line and finally replacing JScript with JScript 9 Legacy, starting in Windows 11 24H2. The new engine is a modernized version of JScript 9, which can be used outside of the browser and is designed to support legacy scripting needs with better security and compatibility. No user action is required for the switch to take effect, and existing scripts should continue to work as expected. Our second Windows 11 story says Windows 11 finally overtakes Windows 10. So July's stat counter figures show the market share of Windows 11 at 50.24%, 50 for audio listeners, with Windows 10 at 46.84%. It's a far cry from a year ago when Windows 10 was at 66.04 and Windows 11 languished at 29.75. One research manager at Canalys told the outlet that enterprises often migrate in waves. Lots of fiscal years are starting in July or October, so I think we'll see some big bumps then.
So this next one is from a service called Fubo, which is a streaming service for what seems like mostly sports. And they had to pay $3.4 million to settle claims that it illegally shared user data with advertisers. In December 2023, someone filed a complaint. And it pretty much expressed this. They had unlawful disclosure of its customers' personal information. At the time, Fubo collected various data, including precise or near precise geolocation and the use of GPS coordinates, as well as device and usage information, including pages and content viewed. Pretty much all engagement with Fubo was recorded per the complaint. And if you go back to the Wayback Machine in late 2023, the privacy policy claimed that the firm would only share non-personally identifiable information with third parties unless Fubo obtained user consent. But the filing claimed that they didn't ask users who created accounts for consent to share their personal information with third parties, which they ended up doing. So Fubo actually reached a settlement agreement that allowed people who used Fubo before May 29th, which is when Fubo last updated its privacy policy, to receive part of a $3.4 million settlement. The settlement agreement received preliminary approval, and users recently started receiving notice of their potential entitlement to some of the settlement. They have until September 12th to submit claims.
In our last company story, Google reveals details on Android's advanced protection for Chrome. So Google is sharing more information on how Chrome operates when Android mobile users enable advanced protection, highlighting strong security improvements. In a new blog post, the Chrome security team explains that activating advanced protection triggers the following in Chrome. Number 1, enforcing secure connections. It says it forces Chrome to attempt HTTPS for all sites and warns users before connecting to any site over insecure HTTP. Number 2, full site isolation. It isolates each website in its own process, preventing one site from accessing data from another, even in the event of a render or exploit. On Androids with more than 4 gigs of RAM, the feature is active by default, otherwise it can be enabled under advanced protection. And finally, JavaScript optimization and security. Advanced protection disables high-level JavaScript optimizing compilers in Chrome's V8 engine to reduce the browser's attack service. These optimizers improve performance, but have historically been linked to many exploited bugs. It is estimated that disabling them could have mitigated roughly half of such cases with no significant performance hit on most sites.
Now we're going to go into research. So AMD is warning of a new Meltdown Spectre-like bug that's affecting CPUs. So 7 years ago, there was this whole thing, but Meltdown and Spectre were security vulnerabilities that were in pretty much every CPU on any device out there. Fortunately, there were a lot of ways to partially patch it via software above the CPU, but these were in a lot of ways pretty unpatchable, at least on the CPUs themselves. AMD is warning of something like this. So akin to Meltdown and Spectre, the transient scheduler attack, which is called TSA, comprises 4 vulnerabilities that AMD said it discovered while looking into a Microsoft report about microarchitectural leaks. The 4 bugs do not appear too venomous at face value. 2 have medium severity ratings, while the other 2 are rated low. However, the low-level nature of the exploit's impact has nonetheless led Trend Micro and CrowdStrike to assess the threat as critical. The reasons for the low severity scores are the high degree of complexity involved in a successful attack. AMD said it could only be carried out by an attacker able to run arbitrary code on a target machine. It affects AMD processors, including desktop, mobile, and data center models, including 3rd gen and 4th gen EPYC chips. And they have a full list in the article if you want to check out the show notes down below. They said they would need local access to the machine, either through a piece of malware or a malicious VM, but the attacks require only low privileges to succeed. In AMD's view, the TSAs affecting its chips are not exploitable via malicious websites and would need to be executed many times in order to reliably exfiltrate any data. In the worst case scenarios, enabled by the 2 medium security vulnerabilities, successful attacks on AMD chips could lead to information leakage of the OS kernel. Other scenarios could see applications or VMs leaking data too. The low severity bugs could lead to internal CPU operational details being leaked, a type of data AMD doesn't deem to be sensitive. Access to kernel data could potentially allow attackers to escalate privileges, bypass security mechanisms, establish persistence, and more. The good news is that not only are these kinds of attacks difficult to pull off, typically reserved only for the most well-resourced groups, but there is no known exploit code available anywhere, according to Microsoft.
Our next research story is perfect blue Bluetooth flaws impact Mercedes, Volkswagen, and Skoda cars. So 4 vulnerabilities that have been dubbed perfect blue are affecting the blue SDK Bluetooth stack from Open Synergy, and they can be exploited to achieve remote code execution and potentially allow access to critical elements in vehicles from multiple vendors. Open Synergy confirmed the flaws last year in June and released patches to customers in September 2024, but many automakers have yet to push the corrective firmware updates. At least one major OEM learned only recently about the security risk. risks. The security issues can be chained together into an exploit that researchers call a perfect blue attack and can be delivered over the air by an attacker, requiring at most one click from a user. According to researchers, the attack affects millions of devices in automotive and other industries. Researchers say that with remote code execution on in-vehicle infotainment, a hacker could track GPS coordinates, eavesdrop on conversations in the car, access phone contacts, and potentially move laterally to more critical subsystems in the vehicle. Perfect Blue is mainly a one-click remote code execution because most of the time it requires tricking the user to allow pairing with an attacker device. However, some automakers configure infotainment systems to pair without any confirmation. Volkswagen said that leveraging the vulnerabilities is only possible if several conditions are met at the same time. 1, the attacker is within a maximum distance of 5 to 7 meters from the vehicle. 2, the vehicle's ignition must be switched on. 3, the infotainment system must be in pairing mode. And 4, the vehicle user must actively approve the external Bluetooth access of the attacker on the screen. Again, that fourth one is optional for some devices. Even if these conditions occur and an attacker connects to the Bluetooth interface, they must remain within a maximum distance of 5 to 7 meters from the vehicle to maintain access.
Now we're going to go into the politics section. A German court has ruled Meta tracking technology violates European privacy laws. So the regional court of Leipzig in Germany ruled Friday that Meta tracking pixels and software development kits embedded in countless websites and apps collect users' data without their consent and violate the continent's GDPR. The amount was 5,000 euros, which is currently about 5,900 USD. The ruling in favor of the plaintiff sets a precedent which the court acknowledged will allow countless other users, so this is where it gets fun, to sue without explicitly demonstrating individual damages. Every user is individually identifiable to Meta at all times as soon as they visit the third-party website or use an app, even if they have not logged in via the Instagram and Facebook account. This massively violates European data protection law by processing personal data to profile Facebook users, yielding the tech giant billions in profits. The court's decision exposes all websites and apps using tracking technology to significant lawsuits.
Our next story comes from Russia, a hotbed of cybercrime, who says "niet" to ethical hacking bill. So that is the actual headline. This came from the Register. Anyways, on to the actual facts. The State Duma, which is the lower house of Russia's General Assembly, blocked the bill's passage into law on various grounds, including concerns over how state secrets held on government and critical infrastructure systems could be made less secure as a result. Politicians said that if vulnerabilities were found in software made by companies headquartered in hostile countries, those security holes would invariably have to be shared with them, which in turn could lead to hostile nations abusing those weak spots for strategic gain. Other objections focused on how the bill failed to comprehensively explain the ways in which existing laws would have to be adjusted to allow provisions for ethical or white hat hacking. According to Russian media outlet RBC, one of the politicians pushing for these changes plans to submit an amended draft to allay concerns. Experts said that it is still possible for established cybersecurity companies in Russia to carry out vulnerability research, although opportunities for individuals are much less abundant. Individuals carrying out legitimate cybersecurity research are often treated as malicious, regardless of their intentions, and since there is no legal provision for ethical hacking, researchers can be prosecuted under the Russian Criminal Code, which outlaws unauthorized access to computer systems.
We're going to go into the open source section, free and open source. Cops in Catalonia think everyone using a Google Pixel must be a drug dealer. The TLDR here is cops like to put malware on criminals' phones to spy on them and gather evidence. As a result, many criminals have turned to using custom ROMs like graphene, and now cops assume anyone with a Pixel is a criminal. That's the whole story, pretty much. If you want to read more, it's in the show notes.
For context, I try to copy and paste actual sentences and paragraphs from the articles. And then if we feel like it, to kind of rush for time, we can paraphrase. This one didn't really have any specific things to capture. And it was kind of telling specific stories of this person had this happen and this person had this happen. So it's dude, TLDR, here's what's going on. The article actually specifically name-checked graphene.
Now, introducing Session Pro Beta. This is an update from the Session Messenger. Apparently they are adding in a premium subscription of sorts, and what this is going to do is it supports the network and it unlocks some features. So you can get higher character limits, more pinned conversations, higher group member limits, animated profile photos, and pro badges. Very similar to Discord Nitro kind of vibes, as well as Telegram Premium. They do have a secure cryptographic proof system so that when Pro users send messages that utilize Pro features, they automatically include a cryptographic session Pro proof with their message. This proof serves as a tamper-resistant digital certificate that validates Pro status without revealing any personal information about the user or their payment details. So yeah, they go a little bit more into the details that you can find in the show notes.
Our last story this week comes from the Misfits section. Yet again, we have had a Strava data breach. This time, the Swedish Prime Minister's private address revealed thanks to the bodyguards. So Ulf Kristersson's bodyguards appear to have inadvertently revealed his location, routes, and movements, including details of hotels and his private addresses, by uploading their workouts to the app, making them publicly available. At least 35 times, bodyguards shared information that directly linked the Prime Minister and his regular locations, including his private home, which is supposed to be kept secret. The routes also reportedly revealed Kristersson's own running routes and locations of overnight trips abroad, including a private family trip to Åland, an autonomous region of Finland, in October 2024. In June 2024, and this is an example they give, when Kristersson was visiting, again, going to screw this up, Bodo in Norway for a meeting with Jonas Gahr Store, the Norwegian Prime Minister, and Alexander Stubb, the Finnish president, one of the bodyguards reportedly posted a Strava. A few months later, Kristersson posted a picture on Instagram of the three leaders running together. The sensitive information leaked on Strava was also found to involve other high-profile members of Swedish society, including the royal family, the leader of the Social Democrats, and the former Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson, and the Sweden Democrats leader Jimmy Åkesson.
And that, everybody, is going to wrap it up for the week. Again, the main highlight stories this week was McDonald's leaking millions of job applications, Jack Dorsey has entered the encrypted messenger game after a lazy weekend, custom Android phones are getting law enforcement attention, and more. And now I'm going to let Nate talk about his experience with EasyOptOuts.
So, as Henry said at the top, EasyOptOuts is a data removal service. As many of you may know, especially if you live here in America, where our privacy laws are just LOL repeated over and over for 20 pages, there are tons of websites out there that you can hop online. You can look up a phone number, an address, a name, and find information on anybody. Addresses, historical addresses, family members, sometimes salaries, political affiliations, all kinds of stuff that, you know, even if you're not doing anything wrong, that's just nobody's damn business. Like, I want to talk about that stuff in person with somebody once I've gotten to know them and I trust them and we built up that rapport. So you can take all this stuff down. A lot of these websites do have an opt-out button, or if you just go check the terms of service and search the words opt-out, you can find it. But there's dozens of these websites, and that's a lot of work. Like, you have to go through each and every one of them individually, and then you have to check up on them and make sure they've deleted your data. And a lot of them will send you an email that's like, click here to complete the process. Or you could go for one of these services like EasyOptOuts. And EasyOptOuts is one of our favorites because they are super affordable. They are only $20 a year. They do offer refunds if you are not satisfied with their service and you don't feel like you're getting your money's worth. There has been research from both Consumer Reports and Privacy Guides that has demonstrated their efficacy, and they are also now listed as one of the top picks for New York Times Wirecutter. They ask for very minimal information. They're only trying to make sure that they find the right profile, or they find your profile at all and get it removed. There are only 2 employees. So again, they're not sharing your data with a lot of third-party contractors or employees. There's no ads or analytics on the platform. They do not submit removals unless they have found your data. So again, a lot of these services will just spam everybody, even if they don't have your data. These guys do the search first, they find your data, and then they say, take it down. They are constantly adding new sites over time, and they do have business plans. So thank you to EasyOptOuts for supporting the podcast, and we really appreciate them and the work they're doing. And now back to Henry.
Thank you all for listening to the episode. Again, links to everything can be found down there, as well as show notes. And if you have a story you think we should cover, you'll also find our email on our website. So the final thing we want to ask is for you to share our podcast around. Make sure you're subscribed. Give us a rating if you're listening from a platform where that's an option. Just do what you can to spread a lot of the things we talk about to other people around you in your life. We don't do traditional marketing, so it really is just like, you know, whatever YouTube decides it wants to promote to people, and also whatever you guys choose to share with the people around you. Those are kind of the 2 things we can really control back here. So thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week, and we hope you learned something fun today.